When we were playing Vermintide 2, we noticed that there were like regular rats, but then there's also SKAVEN. So like the regular rats aren't the SKAVEN, they're something else. So what is their origin? And I mean, the SKAVEN look like such a fun and interesting faction to play as in Warhammer 3. So yeah, I just want to learn more about them. Is this maybe like a cinematic for Vermintide? I haven't seen any of the cinematics for that game yet.
A race of verminous creatures whose numbers could drown out the horizon line. Their dark influence is spread across the old and the new world alike. But even then, with a race that is so expansive and dominant, gnawing at the roots of the world, there is a disturbing lack of knowledge about the SKAVEN.
That's the great horned rat.
Imperial and dwarf scholars know very little about the true origins of these vile creatures. But there are some clues that shed a dim light on their dark story.
Let's hear it. Choyer has amazing videos. Should check out more of them when I can.
From the jungles and swamps of Lustria to the darkest places of the World's Edge Mountains.
They're everywhere, man.
From the blasted hellscapes of the Dark Lands to the vast and endless deserts of Araby, the SKAVEN roam the world.
Their undercities are so annoying.
Only the verdant paradise that is Ulthuan is safe from the grasp
of
the Vermintide.
Cool, they didn't get to the donut.
How the SKAVEN came to be is still a mystery, and despite the magnitude of the threat beneath their feet, the majority of nations do not acknowledge that the children of the Horned Rat exist.
That is mind-boggling. I remember learning about this from a specific line that the characters said when we were playing Vermintide 2. That like, yeah, most people don't even believe that the SKAVEN exist. Well, now they kind of have to, because their entire town got taken by the SKAVEN. But like, with how abundant they are, you would think that somebody would come across them, but I guess, you know, they just don't want to believe in it. Either that, or anybody who has witnessed them has not lasted to tell the tale.
Some scholars and academics classify the SKAVEN as a mutated variant of beastmen.
Oh, beastmen.
Both seem to be an evil parody of the human body form.
Are you sure? They're
kind of both twisted into dark reflections of the spirit of man.
I've never really thought about them as like beastmen. I've always seen them as just something else. But I guess maybe? Because beastmen in the lore, they can be many, many different things. They're not really like represented as much in Warhammer 3. I mean, there are plenty of races, but like the amount of unique possibilities that a beastman can become seems endless from my understanding of how beastmen actually, you know, came to be. But yeah, I guess maybe, you know, some humans were corrupted by chaos and turned into rats, but because they're rats, they kind of just multiplied and then they became the SKAVEN, maybe? We'll see. We'll see.
The beastmen reflect a dark form of pride and jealousy, while the SKAVEN reflect the nature of treachery in human society.
That's why their leadership is so low.
The SKAVEN are mutated forms of common rats, corrupted by foul magic.
Could be. I mean, there are rats.
SKAVEN history is also a form of mystery to the SKAVEN themselves.
Oh, of course.
The ratmen naturally do not live very long, and are not concerned by their own origins.
They're just
Most SKAVEN lives are disposable, and they are spent on dangerous experiments, slave labor, and as cannon fodder on the battlefront. In addition, most SKAVEN do not know how to read or write. Only those in the highest positions, Greyseers and warlords of the many thrall clans, have the ability to do so. And very few are too concerned with the past and future of their race, only keen on keeping themselves in positions of power, and to an extent, alive. They do not account for great deeds such as victories in battle or important inventions. Some clans keep records, but they are mostly a barrage of claims and counterclaims, hyperbole and excuses. Perhaps those that are most knowledgeable about the origins of the SKAVEN are not the SKAVEN, the dwarves, or even the men of the Empire. To explore this reality, we must head to the fertile peninsula that is Talea. The people of Talea have dealt with the Ratmen for much longer than the Empire of Man.
Talea? I don't
While
recognize
the
that.
Empire tries to cover up the existence of this constant menace, Talea is far more knowledgeable.
Wait, they're actively trying to cover it up from the populace? I mean, I guess it could cause widespread panic, but also know your enemy? I don't know. That is just like an offhanded comment about it, so there might be a different lore reason for it.
Aware and responsible when dealing with the ever-present lurking enemy.
The Doom of Kavzar? Thinking about it again,
The only
they do have their own
document
gods,
available
so
about the first
I don't think
encounter
they're
with
just
the
like
SKAVEN
beastmen mutants.
is the tale called The Doom of Kavzar, an ancient Talayan poem with 13 stanzas. Copies of this
13,
tale
you say?
have inexplicably disappeared from the Empire, but the tale is still known in Talea. The text reads as follows. Once upon a time, long, long ago, men and dwarves lived together beneath the roof of one great city. Some said it was the oldest and greatest city in the world, and had existed before the time of the Longbeards and Manlings. Built by older and wiser hands in the dawn of the world. The city lay both above and below the earth, in keeping with the nature of the populace that dwelt there. The dwarves ruled in their great halls of stone below ground, and wrestled the fruits of the rock free with their day-long toil, while the manlings reaped the fields of swaying corn that surrounded the city with a patchwork blanket of gold.
Dwarves
The
are in the
sun
mines.
smiled, men laughed, and everyone was happy.
Until the Fire Nation attacked.
One day, the men of the city decided that they should give praise to their gods for their good fortune. They planned a temple such as the world had never seen before. In the central square, a colossal hall would be built, and topped with a single cloud-piercing tower. A tower so tall it would touch the very heart of the heavens. After much planning, and with the help of the Longbeards, they set about their monumental task. Weeks became months, and months became years, and still the manlings built. Men grew old and gray working on that great temple, their sons continuing their work through summer sun and winter rain. At last, after many generations, work began on the great spire itself. Years passed, and the tower reached such a height that the manlings found it ever more difficult to take the stone up to the top. Eventually, the work slowed to a crawl, and finishing the tower seemed impossible. Then one came among the men of the city, who offered his help in their great scheme.
Scheme, you
He
say?
asked a single boon of them in return, and claimed that if they grant him this, he would complete the tower in a single night.
How?
The
What did he
manlings
ask
said to
for?
themselves, "What have we to lose?" and offered to make a bargain with the gray-clad stranger. All he wished was to add his own dedication to the gods onto the temple structure.
Oh.
The manlings agreed, and the bargain was struck. At dusk, the stranger entered the unfinished temple and bade the
Great Horn
manlings
Rat?
to return at midnight. Clouds swept over the moons, cloaking the temple in darkness as the manlings left. All over the city, men watched and waited as the hours slipped past, until, near midnight, by ones and twos, they gathered again in the temple square. The wind blew, and the clouds parted as they gazed up at the temple. It rose like an unbroken lance against the sky, pure and white. At its very peak, a great horned bell hung gleaming coldly in the moonlight. The stranger's dedication to the gods was there, but of the stranger himself, there was no sign. The manlings rejoiced that their father's work was done. They surged forward to enter the temple. Then, at the stroke of midnight, the great bell began to toll. Once.
No. Are the people gonna transform? Is that what happens?
Twice. Thrice. Slow, heavy waves of sound rolled across the city. 4.
Their storytelling is immaculate.
5. 6 times the bell rang, like the torpid pulse
maybe 13?
of a bronze giant. 7. 8. 9. The rolling of the bell grew louder with each ring, and the manlings staggered back from the temple steps, clutching their ears.
You guys made a mistake.
10.
Should have done a background check on that stranger.
11. 12. 13.
There it is.
At the 13th stroke, lightning split the skies and thunder echoes through the night. High above, the dark circle of Moore's Live was lit by a bright flash, and all fell ominously silent.
Dark circle of Moore's
The
Live.
manlings fled to their beds, frightened and puzzled by the portents they had seen.
You went to your bed?
Next morning, they arose to find that the darkness had come to their city.
The darkness.
Brooding storm clouds reared above the rooftops, and such rain fell as had never been seen before. Black, like ash. The rain fell and puddled in the streets, slicking the cobbles with darkly iridescent colors. At first, some of the manlings didn't worry. They waited for the rain to stop so that they might resume their work. But the rain did not stop. The winds blew stronger, and lightning shook the high tower. Days stretched into weeks, and still the rain did not stop. Each night the bell tolled 13 times.
Lucky number.
In each morning the darkness lay across the city. The manlings became fearful and prayed to their gods. Still, the rains did not stop, and the black clouds hung like a shroud over the fields of flattened corn. The manlings went to the dwarves and beseeched their help. The Longbeards were unconcerned. What mattered a little rain on the surface?
Oh, they're about to find
In
out.
the bosom of the earth, all was warm and dry. Now the manlings huddled in their dwelling, fear gnawing at their hearts. They sent some of the number to faraway places to seek help, but none of them returned.
Marcus getting jumped by an
Some went to the
assassin.
temple to pray and sacrifice their dwindling food to the gods, but they found the temple door closed to them. The rain grew heavier. Dark hailstones fell
Wrong
from the
god.
sky and crushed the sodden crops. The great bell tolled a death knell over the terrified city. Soon, great stones cleft the heavens, rushing down like dark meteors to smash the homes of the manlings. Many sickened and died from no apparent cause, and the newborn babies of the manlings were hideously twisted.
Oh, no.
Skulking vermin devoured what little stored corn there was left, and the manlings began to starve.
Oh boy.
The manling elders went to see the dwarves again, and this time demanded their help. They wanted to bring their folk below ground to safety. They wanted food. The Longbeards grew angry and told the manlings that the lower workings were flooded, and their food had also been devoured by rats. There remained barely enough food and shelter for them and their kinsmen. They cast the manlings out of their halls and closed their doors once more. In the ruins of the city above, each day became more deadly than the last. The manlings despaired and called for succor from the dark gods, whispered the names of forgotten demon princes in the hope of salvation. But none came.
That desperate.
Instead, the vermin returned, bigger and bolder than ever. Their slinking furred shapes infested the broken city, feasting on the fallen and pulling down the weak. Each midnight the bell tolled 13 times on high, seeming now brazen and triumphant. The manlings lived as hunted creatures in their own city, as great rat packs roamed the streets in search of them.
They came with guns. How are you supposed to fight that?
At last, the desperate manlings took up such weapons as they had and beat upon the dwarves' door, threatening that if they did not emerge, they would drag them out by their beards. No reply came from within.
Are they all dead too?
The manlings took up beams and battered down the doors to reveal the tunnels below. Dark.
Yeah, it's not safe underground from the rats.
Stealing themselves, the pitiful remnants of the city's once proud populace descended.
Oh, you're not gonna like what you find down there.
In the ancient hall of kingship, they found the dwarves. Now naught but gnawed bones and scraps of cloth.
Yep.
And there they saw by the dying light of their torches the myriad of eyes about them, glittering like liquid midnight, as the rats closed in for the kill. The manlings stood back to back and fought for their lives. But against such implacable ferocity and countless numbers of the verminous horde, their weapons were useless.
It's too many. They just have advantage in numbers. It's Joe over for you, my dude.
The tide of monstrous rats flowed over them one by one, dragging them down to be torn apart, the yellow chiseled teeth sinking into their soft flesh, the dark tufted mass drowning their pitiful screams with their hideous chittering.
Curse of 13. Yeah, if I remember correctly, there's also 13 clans too, right?
Ago, the SKAVEN race has proven to be one of the most dangerous threats to the Warhammer world.
Oh,
it is an ever-growing menace that schemes and plots the downfall of humanity.
Didn't really make sense, but they did.
When emerging from their lairs to the field of battle, they are a deadly horde of unimaginably vast numbers that blends destructive war machines with dark magic.
We will give them battle. Yes.
Oh, yep. There's the go the flamers. And I guess that's why there's always like the prominent bell on a lot of their machines and whatnot. That's kind of their way to honor the Great Horned Rat. I wonder if there's more significance to it though. Because like even in Vermintide too, like yeah, they keep on trying to get those bells going and you have to get rid of them. Dude, I would not want to be in the receiving end of that. Although, to be fair, we have been playing as Gorok, and I mean, they also don't want to be on the receiving end of Deliverance of Itza. On these guys, yeah, they throw like gas bombs. It's also kind of amusing, like seeing Warhammer. Well, this is Warhammer 2 footage, but even still, I can't even play it on any good quality, but like, actually seeing battles how they're supposed to look like is... It's always cool, and it always makes me sad that I can't even play it at this quality. Yeah, there's the bell. I forget what those are called. Are they like the specific vehicles for blade priests? And what exactly do they do in battle? With that story, was that just the origin? How they came to be? Did they exist beforehand and were called to that city? Or was it because they somehow, like, triggered the god's power or whatever to spawn the SKAVEN? And so from then on, they existed.
The verminous hordes move at speeds that belies their staggering size. They seem to flow in endless waves of chittering ratmen. And when the battle is over, they disappear like floodwaters, draining in countless unseen holes, leaving little to no trace of their existence, save only smoking ruins and scoured lands.
Yeah, why are they so technologically advanced too, compared to everybody else in the setting?
Even as we speak, they wait in the dark beneath us, ever watching with beady eyes for the right moment to strike.
That was an incredible video. Please go and subscribe to Book of Choyer if you haven't already. And while the video didn't exactly like give a clear origin for the SKAVEN, I think that's good enough. You know, you can leave everything else up to the reader's imagination. And honestly, just the way that they told the story was incredibly compelling. I really liked how everything was set up.